Hello everybody. Nice to have you here with me today. So where's everybody here from? Just checking out you're in the chat. I was in the chat. I'm on location at my in-laws' place today. It's a public holiday tomorrow, so we came to visit. Hi Shannon, hi Pam, Wendy, Ginny. I saw that Mark had logged in too. We're going to be drawing Mark today, which is pretty special. Hello from Berlin. Yeah, great. Nice to have some people from Germany here too. So it's probably best if I close YouTube, otherwise I'm seeing myself too much. So how is everyone? Hi David, Kati, Mickey. The sound is good, that's good. Good to know that the sound is good. Juanita, excellent. Nice to have you here. I'm just going to hide something here. Okay, so I'm here, I'm with you, totally focused, and we're going to have an awesome time drawing today. Arlo from New Jersey, Hazy Jane from the UK, Wendy from Las Vegas, Cherry Pixie from Ireland, nice to have you here. Raul from the Dominican Republic, wonderful. Julie, yeah, it's so great having you all here. It's super nice. So how many people are already signed up for the Ink Naturally class, which is starting tomorrow? This is like the pre-launch party, if you hadn't realized. I'm gonna already we'll be working with weekly themes, and I'll already be getting into it today. So we're gonna have a nice line work session today. Lois is here, wonderful. Holly from Portland, Annette from Denmark, Tammy from Durham, awesome. Just saw someone hit a like, put your thumbs up and like this. I think we're gonna have a great time. Peggy from Quebec. What does my shirt say? It says Shristi, Sthiti, Samhara, Tirudhana, and Anugraha, which are the 5 acts of Shiva. And that's like creation, preservation, sustenance, concealment, and revelation, which are these things are always happening at all times. And the t-shirt is just a little reminder of that. It's in Sanskrit. Cool to have you all here. So today, sign up for the Ink Naturally class because we're starting tomorrow and it's going to be super cool. I'm here from Indonesia. Wonderful. You're signed up. Yeah, great. I've got a bit of a lag, I think, with the questions that are coming back to me. So, yeah, cool. I'll start getting into it. I'll introduce our muse. Super happy to have him here, Mark Chef, who's in the chat. We did a mentorship together many years ago. I can't remember exactly when it was, 2013, 14, something. We were both mentorees of Rebecca Gay, and I learned so much in that phase. So I had no formal art training, and I was just into drawing, and I loved illustration, and took a giant step and went to the States to learn with Rebecca Gay and a bunch of other great artists. And Mark was there, and then we both did a mentorship, which there were 6 of us, and once a week we'd meet up with Rebecca and just create and work together and get critiques, and it was super cool. And Mark was the one who introduced me to Sketchy. I saw on Facebook he'd done a piece from a Sketchy reference and was like, oh, what's Sketchy? That sounds cool. And yeah, so he got me into Sketchy, and one of my first drawings I did for Sketchy was of Mark, and I brought it along with me. The light's not very good though. I'll switch to the overhead camera. Big Al signed up, but he's not sure he'll make inks. That's fine. You don't have to make inks. You've already got inks, and that's totally fine. beet and blueberry ink ready. That's great. I've got a bit of a different setup. I'm using my wife's computer today, so just make sure I've got everything where I want it. Yeah, so here's my drawing of Mark that I did 4 years ago. I had it in my Instagram story yesterday, so maybe you saw it. Yeah, and that big owl said he's probably not going to make inks, and it's totally fine. You don't have to make your own ink. But I just love making ink. So I'm going to be putting a lot of ink making into my classes, and I hope that a lot of you will join in because it's super fun to make your own art supplies. 2012. So Mark says 2012 we did the mentorship together. So wow, 8 years ago. It's amazing. A lot has happened then. Check out Mark's Instagram and website at Mark Chef. He's just doing incredible work, and it's so cool to have now known each other for so long, and just Mark's done so many things, and it's just it's amazing to see what you're doing, Mark. So keep it up. It's a great inspiration, and thank you for joining us today. These are the papers I tend to use the most. They're both Handmade. It's a German brand which just happens to be really close to where I live, and this is Nostalgie. It's a 90-pound, 190-gram square meter paper, and I think it takes line work really nicely for doing ink. And when I'm getting a bit wetter and working large, I like to use this. It's a 200-pound, 425 grams a square meter paper, and I love it because it just doesn't warp. So it takes it really well. How did I make dandelion ink? So just a little prelude, because I posted a dandelion ink piece today. Before I get into it, I'll just tell you a bit about ink making. This looks like it's up really big on the screen, so everyone have a look. Dylan, could you please explain how you make the dandelion ink? The hue looks beautiful. I gathered some petals this morning, not sure how to proceed, so you need a lot of petals. And you basically chop it up and put it in water. You can use boiling water, or you can boil it. You can do it cold, try different things. It's just, I like trying different things. And then the pigment from the petals will come out into the water, and that's what you extract. You'll be able to draw with. And if it's too thin, if it's not, it's just a really light color, then you'll need to reduce it, let it evaporate, and just have less water. You can add gum arabic or honey or cherry sap as a binder. It's going to thicken it up, and it's going to have a nice consistency to work with. So that'll be coming up in the course. I will have a dandelion ink video for you all. So yeah, ink making, it's so much fun, and I think it's surprisingly simple. So it's just a cool way to get into nature and make your own art supplies, connect to your supplies. If you want the Mark's photos, they're going to be below the stream here. You'll be able to see a link to the photos. We'll be starting with this one. And today I would like to do a few drawings, because having a quick sketchy practice is a really beneficial way to learn, so you don't have to get too hung up on details, and we're really focusing on line work. So my tool of preference is a broad edge calligraphy pen, and if you don't have one, you can make it from a chopstick or any kind of twig that you find. These are really nice knives from Opinel. This is my son's, has a rounded tip. Opinel knives, and you just carve your own calligraphy knives, so you'll never be in want for art supplies, apart from paper maybe. I see a few questions coming up here, but I'm going to get into this, and occasionally I'll look up and I'll see, when I put the sound on, then I'll hear like a bling if you say something. Oh, that's probably going to be feedbacky. I'll put that off. So I'll get drawing. Please draw along. The link's below or just right here on your screen. And so I'm really going to be focusing on line work here, and with this broad edge. You can do it with a paintbrush, with a pen, with any tool that you have really. But these kind of broad edge pens and paintbrushes, brush pens, they're really good for line variation. So I'm going to keep this pretty quick. It'll be like a gestural thing. Put that ink down, and there's such cool lines here. I often do this as a timed practice, but I'm using my phone as a camera. I can't set a timer, so I'm just going to do a quick sketch. And I know a lot of you that are here. Big Al is amazing at quick drawings. A lot of you maybe already have like a quick sketch practice. I just think it's such a super beneficial thing to do. And I organise sketch meetups on Tuesdays, so if you would like to join us on Zoom anywhere in the world, and then do so. We spend 2 hours drawing each other, and it's super fun. So this is totally loose. I hope the light here is all right. I haven't worked in this setup here before, so yeah, we'll just see how we go. So this is just some fat lines. Just really concentrate on your reference, our reference, and just make marks. And it's really quick and totally not precious. And it's just a good way to warm up and get into drawing. And sometimes if you're going to, spend a longer time drawing and you just want to get into the flow, it's awesome to start with some quick drawing. And at the moment I'm using Acorn Cap ink. It has this lovely dark brown colour. I made it with my daughter during the week. There's a video of that. She's a great assistant. That video, the ink making video, is just like a taste of what we're going to get up to in the coming month, making ink together. So this is just, fun, loose, inky drawing. And someone asked why do we have 4 muses? It's not 4 muses, it's all Mark. And I just thought it's super fun. Basically kicking off my sketchy class with drawing Mark, who introduced me to sketchy. So this is cool. So that'll do for now. It's just, I hope this is not too glary here. The ink's a bit wet. But just using different line variation, could keep going a lot longer, building this up and getting finer and tighter with it. But for now, I'm totally happy with that. Now we'll move on to our next reference photo. We'll get progressively longer, so if you're maybe panicking that it's going too fast with the drawings, there'll be one piece where we'll spend a lot more time, and this is a pretty fun one of Mark. And here there's some great lines, the wrinkles, there's this really interesting, shape between the teeth, the moustache. There's just a lot of cool stuff happening in this, and it's super fun. It looks a bit like Mark getting his Wolverine on. He's got some really cool Wolverine inspiration pics on Sketchy. So how's everyone going? Is this all right, doing quick drawings? If it's something you haven't done before, it's something you should definitely do a lot. It's such a good way to loosen up and just get a lot of faces and portrait experience under your belt. And just this kind of constant quick practice, having kids and not having much time to draw sometimes, it's just good to whip something out. So let's just get into this next drawing. Got some awesome eyebrow here. And something I love with these pens is you can twist them around and just get such cool line variation with them. And really, lots of fun. But whatever tools you've got is totally cool. You just work with what you've got. And either, you can maybe try and replicate some of this line work, or you just do it how you do it. But just do it nice and quick, because we're still just loosening up, getting a feel for Mark's wild side here. Holly asked if I'll show how to make twig pens. Definitely. I've made a couple of videos. I've also got a knife sharpening video because it's totally important to have a sharp knife. Oh yeah, and Tamara's also looking forward to making twig pens because twig pens are just super cool. Pam has lots of dandelions. Great. As once the flowers are pollinated, the petals just kind of wither and fall off of the flowers before they turn into the beautiful thing that we blow and make wishes with. The petals just kind of come off of their own accord, and that's a great time to collect them. And whatever like botanical art supplies you're collecting, you can collect it and dry it, and it's a really good way to preserve your materials that you collect. So I've got a lot of dried, collected plant matter that I can occasionally whip out to make a fresh batch of ink with. And I'm also constantly adding new... cool. Mark says his daughter's here with lots of questions. Yeah, cool. Make ink. Excellent. It's so much fun making ink. And then, if you've got enough stuff, you can make litres and litres of it. I don't know what that is in the States, pints and pints of ink. So you can really do lots of painting with it. It's lots of fun. So have fun making ink and working with it. Yeah, Mark is old man Logan. And so this kind of thing, this line drawing, I just think, it just thrives and lives from this kind of wild line variation. And I used to pay, like, I guess in the States it'd be like $20 just for a nib like this, and then you have to have the holder as well, and then you'd bend it, and then it'd get rusty, and you'd need to get new ones. Like $20 for a pen, and you just make them. And that's something I love with my kids. We just make art supplies, and they just love it. And if you've ever watched me live streaming or done some of the classes before, you may have heard this anecdote, but they, my big boy is 6 years old, and he'll come home with pockets full of stuff that he's collected, and he's like, can we make ink with this? Can we make ink with this? And it's so cool. I love that he's also keeping an eye out for inky colours, and we, a couple of days ago, we made poppy ink. I love poppy ink. I've got some with me here, so maybe we'll use it later on. And once the poppy ink was finished, he just looked across and like, that's such a nice ink. So it's really great to be able to share that with our kids. This kind of creativity and self-sufficiency. And I just love zero waste stuff. Don't have to create a bunch of new things and throw things away. All right, this is pretty wild, inky drawing. So I hope you're all having fun with it. And so you notice this ink doesn't have a, it's not super dark. So you can layer it up, or you can just drop some more pigment in there, and the way the ink disperses, similar to watercolor, it can have some really delightful effects. Is my class going to cover how to make the drawings last? Do we need to prep the paper? The way I draw is very direct, so you don't need to prep the paper, depending on what paper you're using, I guess. If you've got watercolor paper, if it's a paper that buckles a lot, as we get into the wetter approaches, you may want to stretch your paper first. But it's going to be some of the classes in the drawing session, I make ink at the start and just start working with it. Some of the more involved recipes, there's going to be separate videos that are recorded. And in the FAQs, frequently asked questions, there's a list of recommended materials if you want to get some stuff. But also, depending on where you live, you're going to have different plants to me. So just keep an eye out for what you could maybe use, but make sure you check out if it's poisonous, because I don't want anyone poisoning themselves in my class. Some things in nature are poisonous, so be careful. And if it's not totally abundant, and it's like the only flower on the street, just let it flower. You don't have to pick it and make ink with it. Take from the abundance of nature. How's old man Logan going here? Everybody feel like, it's ready, it's time to move on? We spent enough time on old man Logan. We want something more chilled and serene. Oh, this is wild. Such a cool photo, Mark. I'm done. Peony ink, peony, yes. Craig, it's peony time, right? In the States as well, it is here. There's a lovely, there's like white, pink, and a really dark red. And if you can get the really dark red ones, they make such nice ink. And you can, you may be able to just get it at the florist if you don't have the luxury of having a garden. Or if there's a park where there's thousands of them, maybe you could just grab a few handfuls of petals. Peony ink is really nice. For some reason, I feel like every time I pop up a comment, it's somewhere else. I don't know what shellflower is, but peonies, or peonies, or however you say it, are awesome. Let's move along to balance out some of that ferocity. Oh, look at this. Oh, so nicely lit. And Mark, he just has a beautiful eye for good reference photos, because he's also created so much art. He knows what he likes to draw. I don't know, Mark, have you actually used these yourself as reference? Because they're, gorgeous. So, I'll do another quick drawing. So we're maybe going to about 8 to 10 minutes, and then we can spend half an hour at least on our final drawing, and we could take time, make it really beautiful, or really messy, whatever you want to do. And I hope you're all focusing on the line work aspect, line variation. That's kind of the theme of the week. As of tomorrow, as of right now, it's going to be about line quality and line variation. So we've got some really beautiful shadow forms in this photo, but we're going to focus on line and how can we express what we see with line. So I'll get into this. Maybe some people can drop some comments so I know that you're hearing what I'm saying. Everyone drawing along, having fun, getting excited about making ink. Thank you for the peony tip, Craig. It's a great one. These upward turned eyes are just really nice. Yeah, and great thing with these broad edge pens or flat brushes or brush pens, whatever, but especially these is how you just got really strong, broad lines, and with the same tool, you just get these really fine, delicate lines as well. I've just come to love this kind of tool for drawing with. So Mark's from Brooklyn, and he's often doing exhibitions, right, Mark? So if you get the chance, and if you're in New York or thereabouts, then go and go and check his work out for real in person. I'd love to see it because he does such cool layered resin work, and it's amazing. I've never seen it in person yet, but I would love to someday. So if you get the chance, go see his work in the flesh. And if you can't, then Instagram is also a pretty good place to look at it. Janice is using with turmeric ink. Yeah. So interesting that you mentioned that. I like to use the yellow turmeric ink as kind of a basis, and then bring in a second darker ink to work with that. So once the turmeric dries, or you could just use a much more concentrated turmeric because it can also turn kind of brown if it's concentrated enough. But once it dries, then go over that line work. If you're taking the class Wednesday, this is exactly the thing we'll be doing, to use turmeric ink with a darker ink. So I think that's a really nice thing. I like to use a lighter ink together with a dark ink. And you can get some really nice kind of effects out of that. So was anyone here watching Drawing with France yesterday? It was great. I'm always amazed. She just does such amazing hatching and ballpoint work. So this is a bit of a contrast. This kind of tempo of quick drawings. Oh, these eyes are kind of off. That's all right. I just want to keep moving. Talking about France's work, and then she just like, spent an hour just drawing the eyes, and it looks so amazing. And well, these ones look a bit different. That's okay. It's just all about the practice and experience of it. I've also done paintings where I then spend, over 100 hours working on it. And I think doing this really quick work really helps inform some of the choices you make when you also spend a lot longer on a piece. I just thought this would really be a really appropriate way to kick off our month-long group class together. Just do some quick drawings together. It's such a good practice to get into. So there's all sorts of things like going off with this kind of perspective, likeness, whatever. But I'm just seeing with my line, what can I do in this short space of time? Sometimes I start drawing my kids and then they walk away. So you just gotta draw, just go for it. Just checking out some comments. Elderberries, yeah, elderberries are good. They fade. Not all. Some of these natural inks are more light fast than others, but elderberries have such a luscious colour, and you can just squeeze it right out of the berries, and you can just squeeze the berries onto the paper. They're amazing. Elder's my favourite plant. This is an elder pen. Stina's running low on a concentrated oak bark ink. Yeah, there are a lot of barks that you can make ink with. So if you happen to be out and about or in your own garden and you see that there's pruning being done, and there's just all these branches lying around that could be yours for the taking to make some ink with. Apple bark, oak bark, sumac bark. But once again, read up on things, you don't want to cook poison. And that's really, there are some cool things you can do with ink. cool modifiers you can use, like mineral salts and stuff. But some of them can be a bit hazardous to your health. So in this class, we won't be using them. All of this stuff is stuff that I use with my kids as well. So it's going to be great family fun. I put some lines in there. I used to just freeze up in front of my drawings. And at the IMC, where Mark also was, Illustration Masterclass, I went there twice, and the second time, Scott Fisher just watched me doing nothing in front of my canvas for a couple of days. He was like, can I take your brush? And then he just started painting on my paintings. Like, you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this. You know, it's just paper and paint. You know, you don't have to be afraid of it. And it was such a good lesson to learn because I was totally afraid about wrecking it. So, got some skewed eyes, but you know, there's a nice kind of gesture, this upward looking motion, and that'll do for now. So now we can take a breath and take a bit more time. But having started with that kind of loose approach, we're all really, you know, ready to draw, ready to spend some more time and see what we can do with this awesome photo of Mark, which was the first reference I used of Mark. Ray says, cool sketch. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. Yeah. That second photo screams out for France-like treatment. Oh, it'd be so fun to just spend an hour, 2 hours drawing that second Old Man Logan face. Yeah. So maybe, you know, we can just revisit it someday. Draw Mark again. So I thought it'd be interesting. Oh, Bev is here from Australia. Wow, 5:30 a.m. It's amazing. Thank you for being here, Bev. I'm from Australia, but I live in Germany. I think you're the first Australian who's been on one of my live streams live, so thank you. Throughout the course, it's not set yet, but I'd really like to do an Australian, Asia-friendly, Hawaii, you know, the other side of the world friendly live stream as well. So if you're in Australia or in one of those other time zones, then tell all your friends and come hang out and draw together. And now, let's spend a bit more time with Mark here. If there are any questions, feel free to ask or just get into the drawing. So I just start. I know these nostrils are calling out to me, and now I'm not going to be quite so fast. Take a bit more care, and my approach is just to kind of I'm constantly comparing where things are in relationship to each other, and just kind of draw out from a point and let the drawing unfold, and see where it takes us. So I'll be talking a lot more about this during the class. And I used to get super hung up on getting a likeness, and part of the reason I would freeze in front of my drawings and paintings and just not get anything done, because you know you have the vision, this is going to be the most beautiful thing I've ever done. And then instead of creating that beautiful thing, I would just sit in front of it, being afraid to wreck it before it started. So it's good just to loosen up and, you know, maybe it will be the most beautiful thing I've ever done, but maybe it will just be a drawing, and that's fine, you know. Just draw, just have fun, enjoy that creative process. Oh yeah, Sketchy, thank you for introducing me, Mark, to Sketchy. And Mark recommends Sketchy to his students too. And so do I. Sketchy is so cool. It's such a cool community. And there's so many amazing faces and reference photos and people that want to be drawn and draw each other, and such a beautiful exchange and conversation between artists, and it's such a safe place to experiment and try new things. And because as I look back on my development of the past 4 years since I've been using Sketchy, a lot of the cool things that I've done, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's something I want to do more of. Often came through some Sketchy experiment that I did. So thank you, Jordan, for Sketchy, and thank you everyone in Sketchy for contributing and making it such a cool and vibrant artistic community. It's a pleasure to be part of. And the Sketchy Art School. So cool. Thank you, Jordan, for inviting me to 30 Faces, 30 Days, and then, working on this Ink Naturally class together, which is just so cool. I'm so happy to be sharing this natural ink making and portrait drawing with people. It's just such a cool combination of passions. And it's like so much that I'm into with nature and plants and my surroundings and the story of place. It all flows into this. So I know where this acorn cap ink, and I remember the park which had these majestic oak trees where I collected the acorn caps that went into this ink. And it was like a sunny summer day last year, visiting family in Hamburg and collecting acorn caps in the park. And now it's drawing Mark's face. So I'm just kind of rambling. If you want to hear anything about my process in particular, if you're just happy to draw along, and it's all good. If you have any concrete questions and things you'd like to know, then feel free to ask now. Now's a good time to do it. I just love the ink making, so super happy to share it with you all. Ah, yeah, cool. Mark just went and grabbed pine cones. Excellent. So you might need to boil it first. If you smash it up in a mortar and pestle or something, it can kind of help the pigment to flow out. But just filling a pot with pine cones and cooking it for a while and seeing what you get out of that, such a cool way just to connect to your surroundings and making. Yeah, Sketchy has been a very positive experience for me. Thank you. So on the topic of line variation, I like that this is just one line and it's kind of got this weird formless form. I'm sorry about the lighting here. It's going to be different again next week. So we're just at my in-laws' place. But just this single line can have so much variation, and you can twist it around, make it thick and thin, up on the corner, and I just love the variety of these sticks, what you can do with a stick. And it's also good. I like working large But it's also really interesting to work really small with a broad edge tool, and how you kind of, because in some way it's a real constraint. You're like, oh, I want to do something small, but just have such a big tool, and to use unusual tools for different kind of tasks and approaches, and the result that you can get from just using unusual tools can be super interesting. And who knows, you might even send you down a rabbit hole of using, I don't know, what could we use? Like a phone case as a broad edge calligraphy tool, whatever you've got around you. And just try things out and stay curious and have fun. And that kind of curiosity and experimentation of creating natural inks is, for me, it's just given another kind of dimension to the work that I do. And before it's even on the paper, it's already has a story. The story of the place, the story where it was collected. Because I think a big aspect of my work is just it's all about connection. And I love portraits and the way you connect to people and see people. And I know, even if it's from afar, it's from sketchy and you've never met that person, you still, as I find in my experience of drawing something like that, and kind of, empathizing and I'm feeling and seeing that person in a way which is totally kind of disconnected to if we were actually sitting in a room together. But still, it's a connection, and it's a beautiful thing just to take time to connect. In the creative process, painting and drawing, you're also connecting to yourself and your own intuition. Just making choices, trying things out, and getting into the flow, which is such a beautiful state to be in. So it's connecting to people, it's connecting to yourself, and connecting to your materials and your surroundings. And you get to know things in a totally new way. Like, it's really opened my eyes for my surroundings. I start to see things, or be interesting in my own experience of ink making. I talk to some people, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really into ink making at the moment. I'm like, oh yeah, we met up with a friend and she told us you can use cherry sap as a binder. I was like, really? And I went outside and I was like, how do you even get cherry sap? What does that mean? What's cherry sap? And I started looking, and then for the first time saw these cherry trees that we had in our garden. They're just like wild, thin little cherry trees, and then there's this like pearl of cherry sap coming out. And I had never noticed cherry sap before, not consciously. And it was as if my eyes had just been opened to a new world of cherry sap. And that everywhere I went, I was looking for cherry sap. And I found it everywhere I went. So not everyone has cherry trees growing where they are. But as you start to kind of open up to finding natural art supplies and finding new things, then you just see so much more connecting to the world around you. And that flows into the work too. So, I've just been talking about my love of the world around me and natural inks. Is everyone still there? Yeah, cool. And drawing Mark with all of you. So here I've done a lot of light stuff, just kind of setting up the drawing, and we still have a lot of time, like 15 minutes at least. And so now that I've kind of set up this space, I'll maybe start checking and changing things and realize, oh, maybe there's this cool angle out here. I would like to push that a bit more. And I think, doubling up on lines and stuff. Mayori, it is ink, it's tinta. It's acorn cap ink from oak trees, or acorn caps. Homemade ink. Henry, awesome. Is going to make art supplies from the things he finds in his home. Yeah, the things you already have there. And that's so wonderful too, to be like, oh, I didn't realize I could paint with that. I didn't know I could draw with that. And you just find all these new things that you can use in your work. So yeah, coffee, tea, spices. I've never tried chili powder, but it's got a nice red. It could be interesting. Might be hazardous. Jude. Yeah, okay. All right, yeah. So we get to know mold, making inks. There are things you can put into your ink to prevent the molding. But if it does mold, yeah, you can take it off. And it's interesting that the mold made your bead ink change color. So it will change color with time and with oxidization. When it's really fresh, straight from the beet, you have this amazing, vivid pink color. And that changes with time. But I wonder if the mold maybe, feeds on, because the mold is feeding on the ink, this organic matter. And that can definitely maybe have some effect on things. So yeah, you can refrigerate it. You can, if you really filter your inks and get all the little bits out, there's also kind of less for mold to feed on, I think. But you can put cloves in there, clove oil, thyme oil apparently, which I haven't tried. Just adding some details to the cool reflection in the glasses here. And if you want, you can also add a couple of drops of pure alcohol, rubbing alcohol that you can get from is it a chemist in the States, or is it called something else? Drugstore, I don't know if you can get alcohol from there. Not alcohol that you would drink because it would kill you, but it's like cleaning alcohol. And you can use that to prevent mold from growing on your ink. I'm just going to add some little beard hairlines. It's kind of fun little details. It might be good to just do some more bold stuff, which is really going to, make a big difference to our set up all these spaces, and can now start doing some stuff which is going to give it a bit more depth and contrast. So if you're participating in the Ink Naturally class, the lesson 1 is already up. Laurie said she's already watched it, that's cool. So yeah, you'll be able to check that out. And it's really, I think it's a really natural follow-on from this session, doing some quick drawing together. And throughout the 4 weeks, it's going to be line, light and shadow, edge control, and then composition. So we're going to bring in some illustrative elements from nature that we can combine into the work to really, turn our portraits into stories. The first drawing I did of Mark here 4 years ago, I kind of put this wood grain into his face. Yeah. So I guess I didn't make my own ink back then, but I was still already definitely inspired by nature. And even if you're in a big city, like Mark said, he just went out and got pine cones. In cities and parks, or just the trees that line the streets, you have these times of year when they're in bloom, or there's nuts raining from them, or there's wherever we are, there's likely things that we can use to make ink, make paint with. Also, minerals, sandstone, shells from the beach. I heard about someone who made paint from scraping off like the black pollution build up somewhere in some big city. Like, I don't know, what's that? Tar and exhaust fumes and all sorts of gross stuff. But just this kind of gunky black build up of stuff, and they turned that into art and turned it into ink. So you can really get creative with where you find your art supplies. I'd rather rather use kind of healthy, nice stuff than maybe concentrated pollution. But I'm sure the walls that the pollution was scraped off of were thankful for it. Oh, I've been missing comments. All right, what are people saying? Rooibos tea makes beautiful ink color. Yeah, thanks, Tammy. Okay, yeah, Mia gave the tip of adding vinegar and salt to beat and bury ink and refrigerate. So vinegar is a mordant, which will help it bind into the paper, and we'll preserve it a bit as well in the salt. Mickey's tried making pens, but the end split. That could be using dry wood is better, and you want a hard wood. And your knife needs to be really sharp. It could be, if your knife's not sharp, then that could bust it. But hardwoods are really good. I like elder and hazelnut, cherry, beech. I'm not sure what you have available to you, but dry hardwoods are good. They tend not to break as easy. I have in the class, I have a pen making video. I think even on the Sketchy channel, there was a short snippet of me cutting an elder pen, which was uploaded. So you could check that and just see my technique, how I cut the pen. I've made a lot of them. So the more you practice, I think you get a feel for cutting pens. You can also just cut them to a point. I don't have any with me because I like the flat ones. But cut them to a point like a regular pencil, and you can use them like that too. Mayuri, I'm afraid I don't really understand Spanish, but it looks like Mark does. So I can't answer your question, but it looks like Mark has answered. So thank you, Mark. And maybe someone else in the in the chat can speak Spanish, and then you can chat in Spanish together. I have Catalan blood, but I don't have much experience speaking Spanish or Catalan. Yeah, oak. Oak is good, Mickey. Oak is a nice hardwood, and how cool is it to use oak pens while working with acorn ink? It makes total sense. So yeah, oak. It's a good one. I also I like collecting dead wood. So if it's still hanging up in the tree, if it's on the ground, it will rot, and it won't be very good. It won't be very hard anymore. But like kind of freshly dead, because some branches just die, and then you can snap them off, and they're already dried, and you can just start cutting them and start working with them immediately. Or maybe take some secateurs to the garden, to the park, and grab yourself a few branches, let them dry, or cut them fresh. Just play around, experiment. The experimentation is key. Just try things out and have fun, and let me know. Write to me and tell me about your experience of trying out different things, because there are things I have not yet tried out, and I'd love to know about it. I'm gonna, this whole dark area of the hair, I don't know what's going on in there, so I'm just gonna put some vertical hatching in. That's my go-to easy solution. Just it's kind of line work, it's kind of shading, and it's kind of easy. You don't have to think about what's going on in there. Just to indicate that that's darker than the surrounding area, and that's enough. Just to indicate. And other saps work instead of cherry. Yes, I'm sure they will. Thank you, Stina. I think you can use, it's an interesting question, like pine saps, which often are also found in abundance. It's not water soluble. So that's the great thing about cherry sap. You can put some cherry sap in a jar of water and it will just dissolve. And then you have this liquid binder where you can drop the cherry sap straight into your ink. And gum arabic is acacia sap. So that's the standard binder that's in most art supplies. It's in food as well. So gum arabic. I think, what's related to cherry, I've seen plum sap coming out of plum trees. You could probably use that, plum, apple sap. But at least where I live, cherry sap is really abundant. There are so many cherry trees growing here, and at the right time of year, the trees just push it out, and there are these amazing big chunks that you can take from the trees without, harming them, because there's just a time of year. If there's enough rain, they just pump out crazy amounts of sap, and we can use that as a binder. But also be sure in August and towards winter not to take it, because the trees need it to protect themselves. So, you can start to get a feel for what the plants need, and what you can take without being a burden upon your surroundings. So try other saps out and let me know. But I'm sure you could use pine saps and stuff, but because they're not water soluble, it's more difficult to use. You'd have to heat it. Or I think they're oil soluble. So instead of using water as a base for your inks, maybe you could use it if you're doing oil painting, because you can make your own oil paints. If you're making pigment for oil paints, maybe you'd use pine sap. I don't know. But I collected some last week. I want to find out. So pine sap is an interesting question for the future. Julie's going to try making ink with tea. Yeah, cool. I still occasionally do, but I used to make flutes with elder branches, and I would stain them with walnut husks and tea. So tea's a good one, and different kinds of tea. You can try different teas to get different shades. June was so excited about attending this. I'm sure it's also very good that you got some groceries. It's already time, so we'll start wrapping this up now. But yeah, if anyone has any more questions, put them in the chat now. I'll be reading things. This is kind of where I've got with Mark. This was 4 years ago with pencil. This is today with you, with acorn ink and a cherry pen. There may be some more things I might do to this, but it's been a fun drawing session. We've done 4 portraits of Mark, and I think the quick stuff in the beginning really helped loosen up for this. So maybe I can, I'll just show you what I've got. I will hide Mark for a moment. Sorry again about the glare. This won't be the case next week. I have different lighting next week. So this was the first one. This was Old Man Logan, super cool, wild, Mark face, looking up to the sky, Mark face, and awesome marking glasses. Yeah, so we've spent an hour together and done 4 drawings in an hour. I'm really enjoying this one. It's going to be, throughout the course, this is going to be awesome foundation of doing line work and then bringing in washes and different inks. So we have a range of colors, but line work is totally the foundation. What you can communicate with line is, can just be so expressive. So that's something we'll be working on in the first week. But I might just swap things around here, and so I can talk to you and be with you with my improvised setup. It's a bit wobbly. I've got my tripod hanging out here, but just see what's everyone have to say. And if you were drawing Mark from the screen, I'll just put him back up here. Thanks for being with us again, Mark. It's super awesome. I'll hold this down so it stops wobbling. I hope that's not freaking anyone out. Holly was almost knocked out by black walnuts. Collect them. If there are things raining down from the trees, it's a message that they probably want to be collected and turned into ink. And walnuts are just amazing. So it was a blessing from above that you almost got knocked out by walnuts. Totally awesome. Mayuri doesn't speak Spanish. That's fine. What's more important? Ink, value, line, texture, volume. The play of light and shadow, I would say. So value is something that a lot in my work, it's a lot about that play of light and shadow. So value I find super important, but ink is just such a valuable foundation. Some of my other work, check me out on Instagram if anyone's here who doesn't follow me on Instagram. I'm at Dylan Sara, Dylan_Sara. Anyone who knows me could maybe drop that in the chat so everyone sees it. I can add comments too. But I'm busy answering questions. So you'll see some of my other work. I've done a lot with ink washes where I do a combination of this value work and then I add line work to it as well. So I really like the play of line work and value. So light and shadow for me, that's something that I really enjoy and I've learned a lot from. Colour, I love colour, but colour's not so important to me. If the value is right, then it's awesome. Oh, and Deanne translated. Thank you. Thank you, Deanne, for translating that question. Where should you share today's artwork? If you're on Instagram, you can do hashtag drawing with Dylan, and I'll see it and I'll share your work. And you can tag me at Dylan_Sara, S-A-R-A. Tag me, hashtag drawing with Dylan, and I'll share your work in my Instagram stories. I'd love to see what you've all done. Mickey asks, where is the first episode of the class? So if you signed up for the class, you should have access, you should have got an email with an invitation to the Sketchy Art School. And when you log into there, you'll be able to see in the overview the classes which are available, and you'll get a notification saying that the first class is available. So check it out. You could go straight to it from here and get into lesson 1. Holly's using an unsharpened twig. Awesome. Unsharpened, just snap a twig and start using it. You'll get some really interesting line effects. So just experiment and have fun and play with all these natural art supplies. That's so good. So it's just been amazing to see what you all do with your sticks and inks. So cool. Juanita's drawings are tight. Tight is good too, but it's, in my experience, because I felt I'd be so stiff that my drawings would just lose the kind of life, become really stiff, and just loosening up and doing this kind of really sketchy stuff is something that has helped me, even, if I spend 100 hours painting something, which now that I have kids is not so often that I have the time to do that. But even if you're working on a painting which takes a lot longer, you still have that kind of, that expressive looseness to your brush strokes and your pen work. And so these quick drawings is something which has been super valuable to me. And every Tuesday we meet for 2 hours and do timed drawings. If you're interested in that, then check out my Instagram, and I always post about that, so you can come and draw with us on Tuesday. So Juanita, if you have time on Tuesday, come and draw with us. Wendy made ink tea, awesome. And more beads. Beads are good. Yeah, Drew, I can't believe the time's up either. I'm glad you've had fun. I'm so glad that you've been here. Thank you for all of you being here. Hilda also asked where to share drawings. So Instagram, I think most people are on Instagram. If you're on Sketchy, you can post it on Sketchy. If you're in the class for Ink Naturally, then share it in our class feed in the Sketchy Art School, so everyone can kind of start chatting and have, get into conversation about the work that we've been doing. Pixie Biscuit can use any paper. Some papers will look really kind of rubbish. I've used papers which I just got at the supermarket, which are lovely because they're recycled, and I love it for pencil work. But as soon as you put into it, it just bleeds into the paper. It loses all its kind of intensity and saturation. So I mentioned earlier the papers that I use. Hahnemuhle, this is 90 pound or 190 grams a square meter. This one is a super heavy paper. Watercolor paper is great for inking with. And this one's got a bit of texture to it. So that's totally up to you, cold or hot press. I wouldn't use any paper for ink work because some papers are just not going to handle it. So anything that's good for wet media is good. Louise asks about the Tuesday Zoom sketching. Yeah, so Instagram's probably going to be the best place to find out about that. At Dylan_Sara, and write to me there now. Just get on and send me a message. I'm super happy to chat with all of you. So send me messages, tag me in your post from this class. And all of the work you do in my classes in the Ink Naturally course, tag me, and I'm super happy to share your work with the world on Instagram. I think it's awesome what you're all doing. It's so great to see. I like dry twigs. Some fresh woods are also a bit poisonous. Don't chew on your wooden pens. Never use yew tree. Don't use yew twigs because yew is a really poisonous wood. So some things you don't want to use. Birch, cherry, beech, pine, although pines are softwood. Any hardwood is probably going to be good. And I like dry, but fresh is probably okay too. Try it out. Mark says thank you. Thank you, Mark. It's just been so much fun hanging out and drawing you again today. And thank you for being part of my artistic path. And definitely played a role, and also good learning together. And I just love following you and love that you're here. And love all of the things that you're doing. It's so cool. Just such a busy guy. It's such an amazing creative output. If you weren't here at the beginning, check out Mark. We've been drawing today. There's @MarkChef on Instagram, and he's just a wonderful person. So thank you for sharing your face with us. And if that in your profile pic is the new beard you're working on, I'm very impressed, Mark. Good beard. Another question about posting drawings. Yeah, so have I covered that? So in the class and on Instagram. Yeah, if your ink is a bit pale, then you just may want to evaporate it a bit more. It may mean you want, you may need more plant matter. If you just end up with a really small amount of ink, you just may need to use a lot more plant matter. Different things will kind of have more pigment than others. In Sketchy, tag Ink Naturally. That's the name of the class, and you can tag Drawing with Dylan. Tom's here too. Wonderful. Tom is a regular in our Tuesday night drawings. Great to have you here. So Mark just gave the pointer to where the reference photos are. Check down below here. Below the stream, below the video, you'll be able to see the photos that we used of Mark. Some thank yous. You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, there's been so many comments here, and you're also welcome and also lovely. And it's great hanging out and creating with you. Yeah, it's a good rabbit hole to fall down. That's great. I really appreciate you. Thank you, Lois. Yeah, turn your portraits into stories. Isn't that, that's the thing, right? These faces tell stories. But they're just, these little things and nice little touches we can do to elaborate our portraits and turn them into stories. And it's all about stories, and stories are connection, and stories are presence and attention. So it's just a wonderful thing to be able to turn our portraits into stories. And Stina will post when the ink dries. So will I. And that's it. So thank you, all of you. It's been lovely. If you haven't already, sign up for my class, or maybe tell some people who you think would be interested. The link for that will also be available under the video. Ink Naturally, a month of making ink and drawing together. It's such a cool way to connect. And, right now in this time, to focus on something creative and beautiful and just connect to each other. Such a special thing to be able to do. So thank you all so much. Thank you, Sketchy. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Acorns, for your ink. Elder, for your pen. Thank you for all of these things. And thank you that I have the ability and the opportunity to share with you in this way. It's a lovely thing to do. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon. Tag me. Fergie missed the class, but you can watch it again. It'll be available. And yeah, tag me in your posts when you share your work at Dylan_Sara, #DrawingWithDylan, #InkNaturally. And it's going to be a really lovely, creative, nature-filled month with all of you. I'm really looking forward to it. So, yeah, I'm excited too, Holly. Yeah, thank you everyone. Could just go on saying thank you, but I guess now it's time to move on. Check out the first lesson, play with your kids, keep drawing Mark, have a good time, and see you soon. Bye-bye.